I think that we have this contradictory culture. If we're just speaking about Minnesota, we have this idea that we're so progressive, that we have these great innovative ideas. As you said, we have all these programs that are focused on closing the achievement gap, and yet it keeps getting wider. And we're, very near the bottom in the rest of the country in terms of the achievement gap. And I think that there's a disingenuousness that comes along with the way that some folks approach education reform. Oftentimes, I think it comes from what I was saying before about the glass half full, glass half empty. They look at community as just inherently half empty. And so I think that's one of the key pieces. That if you look at a community or a group of people through a deficiency-based lens, that's the expectation that's going to play out. And so if you look at a community or certain demographics in that way, then your systemic approaches are going to be modeled through that lens. And so I think that there's a certain way that parents specifically feel like they're not represented. Even in terms of in-classroom representation. There's not a whole lot of teachers of color for students of color to look up to. I hear that a lot, especially from, kind of that early teenage set. Younger kids don't quite have that focus. But when you talk to 13, 14, 15-year-olds, I hear from them, we want to see faces in our classroom that look like us. The one day we had an individual at a community event, and they were talking about, I think, history classes. And, he said, the only thing I learn about my people or my race is about slavery and how to hate myself. And so this is the curriculum challenge that I think we have. And part of it goes to, not having enough teachers of color in the classroom. It's not having enough administrators that are from the communities that they're serving. Certainly there's, I think, some systemic issues. However you feel about unions, pro or con, there is an effect that, teacher seniority has in terms of who gets to stay in the classroom and who doesn't. If you operate from a last in, first out standpoint, generally how it's structured is teachers of color are younger and they're coming in. So if they're coming in, they're going to be the first ones out. So they're not even getting very deep into the pool. And so you maintain that, more homogenous demography to your teaching staff. And then I think it's just kind of the nature of how economics are structured in Minnesota. If you have a significant gap in unemployment rates between, Black and Latino communities and white communities, economics have a direct effect on educational attainment of the children of those families. And so I see them as really tied together, and it'll be difficult to raise one without the other. And I think more of the employment piece, I think, is kind of based in this very nuanced, hidden form of racism that we have in Minnesota. Even though we see ourselves as fairly progressive, there's not a lot of, I think, intermingling other than, kind of in the city, if we're here, certainly we're here in Cedar Riverside. But if you go to the suburbs, if you go to outstate, everybody's fairly homogenous in who they, surround themselves with. And so I think that really carries over into the corporate world, the for-profit, even small mom and pop shops. It's going to be more likely that people are going to hire people that look just like them. So if that's occurring in the employment world, that's going to have an effect on how children are learning.